Yeah.
our
Yes.
employees, their family members, our listeners, our viewers, our extended
I'll say
family.
it again.
Serving the African American community for over 42 years, giving our city just what we need right now. Baltimore's inspiration station, Praise 106.1. From the Big Al Studio, Baltimore's number one accident attorney.
Oh, my bad.
I mean, you can call in if you want to.
Spirit in Mind broadcast with your host,
I was rolling.
and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the spirit in mind. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we discuss current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson, and I am absolutely delighted, so very happy to have this time with you together on Spirit in Mind, along with my co-host and colleague, Dr. Jonathan Shepard. Hello, Dr. Shepard.
Hey, Bishop. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing well. How have you been?
I'm doing well, sir. It was quite a month of May with travel and attending conferences for the psychiatric associations that I'm a part of, and I am just glad to be back in the studio live. And I just want to send a couple of shout outs to people who have been watching and listening to us, Veronica, and some other names I will say. But I thank you, everyone, for continuing to be a part of the Spirit in Mind family.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we are all about connection. And again, every week and every time we have an opportunity to share with you, we extend ways to stay connected because we value the connection. And even now, you can write this down. Dr. Shepard's going to give some other ways to stay connected, but we want to encourage you to write our phone number down. You can call in live to the
Yes.
studios of Praise 106 at 443 380 2803. That's 443 380 2803. When we get into our subject matter for today, we'd love to hear from you. Dr. Shepard's going to share some other ways that we can stay connected.
Absolutely. So we want you to stay connected to us. Again, you can call into the studio today, but you can go to our social media pages. Let's go to Bishop C. Guy Robinson. Look him up on Instagram, YouTube, and so many other places where you can find Bishop. You can even find his materials, the books that he has written and authored. He is the pastor of the Tabernacle Church over on 2100 West Baltimore Street. You can find him there on Sundays and midweek Bible studies. Email Bishop. You have a question or in need of a question or answer, I should say. You want to invite him to be a part of your spiritual gatherings or even professional gatherings. Please reach out to Bishop, and I'm sure he will gladly review that invitation and do his best to be a part of that. You can also reach out to me, Jonathan Shepard. You can follow me on social media. You can look me up on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Dr. J. Shep. And if you're in need of any direct care services, as you listen to the show, you realize that you do need a therapist, you do need a psychiatrist, you need a mental health professional. Reach out to me, and we'll do our best to make sure that we hook you up with someone who can provide care for you. We are living in some trying times, and it is not anything less of yourself when you need help. We are here to help you. And so that's the purpose of the show. So if you know you need direct care services, reach out to me and I will gladly do my best to help you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, family, let's stay connected. Again, that phone number is 443 380 2803. And we welcome you and invite you to call in. And of course, for those who are a part of our live streaming audience on social media, we invite you again to enter your considerations and questions and feedback in the chat line because this is an interactive time on Spirit in Mind. And so, what a great segue to talk about the fact that For the last several weeks, we've been talking about stress. We've been talking about stress. The World Health Organization defines stress as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. And Dr. Shepard has covered some of the various forms of stress, and acute stress, and episodic and chronic. And we talked about different types and manifestations of stress. And we want to continue that subject and go into the subject of coping strategies. And so, my governing question for us today, as the Spirit and Mind family, is this: how are you coping
Mhm.
in these stressful times? How are you coping? And we invite your feedback because we're going to be identifying different types of coping strategies, habits, impulses, traditions, those kinds of things. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we can grow from each other's shared interaction and wisdom as we talk from this subject. How are you coping with the stress? Dr. Shepard's going to give us further guidance in this subject.
Absolutely. So we all know that stress is a something that we all encounter. We can't avoid it. We can't run from it. Can't hide from it. And when you think about the definition of mental health, there are four principles, four tenets, if you would, that are part of mental health. It's PCWC, and that first C is cope, and it stands for your ability to overcome your problems with success. That's what that C stands for. And when you look at mental health, you can judge how a person's mental health is based off of how they're coping, because we all will encounter stress, but we all don't have to encounter stress or react to stress, I should say, the same way. And so the C, or that C principle, that or tenet that's in the definition of mental health is: how are you doing when the stress arises? What are you doing? Is it something that's healthy? Is it something that's unhealthy? And are you able to overcome it with success? And that preposition "with" is so important there, because we're many of us are dealing with it, but we're not overcoming it with success. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What are some of the unhealthy coping skills and some of the healthy coping skills? You know, Bishop, we were talking last week about stress management and just really looking at the various ways that people deal with stress. You know, people will shut down. I know you talked about that, or people will even become even more alive. But you know, I look at even our eating habits. Our eating habits. You know, people will eat certain foods when they're more stressed out. You know, I am a gummy worm, gummy bear lover. All right, I love them. And so I've had to cut back because my dentist told me to cut back with the cavities. But I tell you, when I was preparing for exams and things like that, you know, I had my bags of gummy worms, gummy bears, and let me tell you, Bishop, uh, those bags did not last long. They may have lasted just one study session. I'm talking about two, three bags. And that was my way of coping with the stress, eating. Some of you all would eat a whole quart of ice cream, not a pint, but a whole quart of ice cream when you're stressed out. Or some people won't eat at all. And Bishop, then I'll hand it over to you. Some of us do impulsive behaviors. Now, again, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but I was sharing as in preparation for the show that people will do impulsive things. So impulsivity could even be with eating, but some of us we would do some things that would be harming to ourselves. Of course, eating a whole quart of ice cream in one sitting, that definitely is harmful to you. But some people might even do something even more drastic that harms them right away. And that could be taking their own life. Even as I've been studying and thinking more about what happens to people within various situations, whether it be in black organizations, black church, or you actually don't have to be black, but when stress rises to that level and you feel like you can't do anything else, you might consider taking your own life. And so, Bishop, you know, this whole thrust regarding suicide has really been strong on me over the last couple of weeks because I've been looking at what happens, the thought pattern of people when they get to that stress level and unable to cope and end up taking their own life, or shutting down their own coping mechanisms. So they may not take their own life, but they shut down ways that they know are healthy. And that is, in some ways, a form of suicide because they're not allowing themselves to grow past that stress. And I'll just say this, Bishop. I learned this past week that with the rollout of the 988 crisis line number, I'm finding out that less than 15% of the general population knows about that number.
Mhm.
I just found out about that this week. I didn't realize it was such a low number. So, again, this show today is right in line with what's happening within our communities. So, we want people to know that help is there. And I wonder, if people don't know because they haven't been listening or they're afraid to call. I don't know. But we want to remind people here 988 is a crisis line number across this country that if you're in need of help, when the stress level is too high, you can even call us right now here at the station, 443-380-2803 or 988. That is a crisis line number.
Oh, Dr. Shepard, that's so helpful to put out there again because, as you said, it is under utilized, and there's a lack of awareness. So, for those who are listening, please make note of that. You might put it this way: 988 is the, if you will, mental health crisis version of 911 or 911, and so much easier number to remember than some of the longer numbers and the 800 numbers. Now you can just do 988, and that's so very important for you to know and even share with others as we are living in very stressful times. And it's all about having the right coping strategies. In some ways, we're talking about this because it's so very important. You might say that in some ways, life is not really about the absence of stressful times. Because in scripture, Jesus said, in this life, not you might have, but you shall have.
Yes.
You will have trials, things that test us, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, things that challenge our ways of thinking, ways that challenge us emotionally, ways that challenge our attachments and our emotional attachments. He says, you will have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer. He says, because there's a coping strategy. There's a way to overcome. There's a way for treatment. There's a way to get help and hope. And so that's very important. So you might say that life is not about the absence, this life is not about the absence of stress or stressors as much as it is about the presence of healthy ways to cope and to learn to get through and even overcome and go through. And so that's what we're talking about. And some of the, Dr. Shepard, you touched on what I was thinking. Several studies have shown that some of the unhealthy or less healthy tendencies that we have when we're stressed basically come into a couple categories: overeating, overspending, and we make nice names for it like retail therapy. but overeating, overspending, and or over and or undersleeping. That was among the top three in several research, evidence-based research studies that were done. And there are others, but I'm just giving some of the major three. Again, overeating, overspending, and over or undersleeping. And then, of course, substance abuse and other things kick in there, according to several researchers. But again, we're identifying those as some of the things that don't help, but actually compound the stressors with other challenges. And so we also talk about some others that may be more healthy for us as we continue. Dr. Shepard?
Yeah, so thank you, Bishop. Overeating, oversleeping, and overspending. And I'm laughing because as we're live here on a Saturday, you wonder, as you're driving to the mall or to the various places to spend money, is it because you're stressed out? I hear you. We're not coming for you. We just want you to think about it before you get out that car and make sure that you're not overspending. Because you will. You're right. You'll find yourself when you're stressed to try to take your mind or alleviate the burden of that stress. Yes, absolutely. Because when you are stressed, you get weighed down.
Mhm.
We really do. And it's not a weight that you can actually see.
Right.
It's a weight that actually, for some folks, they carry it within them. They carry it within their spirits. They carry it within their hearts. If you would, they even carry it within their minds. And you can tell when a person is stressed because they'll even start acting differently. Uh, they may even look differently. And as we look at these coping strategies today, and there really is a good balance um, because we have healthy and we have unhealthy. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Everything that we do to cope with stress is not always healthy. And so, we want to make sure that we are honest with ourselves today. I just gave you one of mine, eating candy, well, Dr. Shepard, that's real simple, Well, there might be some other unhealthy ones. I want you to call into the show. You can tell us what yours is, whatever it might be. But, I tell you, Bishop, I've seen where people have literally spent thousands of dollars to try to relieve stress. People will have other people try to manage their own bills for them or try to manage other situations for them because it's just way too stressful for them. I want to tell people today that we want to infuse you with good, healthy strategies. We just talked a little bit about some of the impulsive behaviors, but once you start a good habit, it becomes much easier for you to do. So, if you're looking at the eating part, okay, you might like to eat a quart of ice cream. Well, let's change that. All right. Let's look at having different fruits. So, as you're out there shopping, go get those bananas, go get those grapes, go get those apples. So, when you go to reach for the ice cream, you'll reach for hopefully that fruit. Now, you're like, well, Dr. I want to eat all that fruit. It just don't sit well with me. I can hear people saying that, Bishop, but at least we'll reach for something that is better than just eating a quart of ice cream. Now, I like ice cream. I went to Dairy Queen last night, as a matter of fact. So I like ice cream, but I can't reach for it every single time I get stressed. And so, Bishop, I wonder, this is a question I hand off to you. What is it that you reach for when you get stressed? That's the question we're asking today. If I'm just kind of rephrasing it, what is it that you reach for? Because we do reach for something,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't practice, you'll reach for whatever that is. I've been telling people about defaults. What's your default? What's a default setting when you get stressed? So you're stressed. So, bam, gummy bears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then listen. We're laughing because you have to be able to approach this with some sense of there's help and hope.
Hmm.
So even as we're identifying this, those of you that are, I like to put things in alliteration. So I'm gonna call that one being mindful.
Hmm.
Again, because as Dr. Shepard said, we all have something that we reach for,
Hmm.
and being mindful now of what we're reaching for. That's the question he's posing. What are you reaching for? What is my instinctive or now habitual coping strategy?
Hmm.
And I can almost sometimes do mindlessly,
Right. Yep.
because
Yeah.
at this point it's reinforced behavior. But now I want to bring it to my attention. I want to recall it to mind. So hope you hear Dr. Shepard. We're not hating on the ice cream people, but saying I'm mindful now that I'm making this connection between my indulgence. So now I can exercise some other options, chill some applesauce and try with that for the first.
Ah,
Has similar texture quality. Just an acquire taste. Give
yes.
yourself some time to adapt to a new normal, a new
Mm.
regimen. So it may not give you the same feeling that it did, the ice cream did, but you got a goal. So now you're mindful, and so that's important. And of course, I think Sandra McCrae, Sister McCrae, great to see you chiming in with us. And offers another one that I put under the M of meditate, which means just not in the New Age, but in the sense of in his law. Psalm 1 says, does he meditate? Or as uh, Philippians says, think on these things. Another translation says, meditate on these things. And so there is something to be said about having connection to our faith and having connection to faith community. And you ought to feel better when you go to church. That certainly is my pastoral prayer. It's funny that you put that up, Sister McRae, because I was just watching a video of Bishop G.E. Patterson singing, "You won't leave here like you came," in Jesus' name. And so there ought to be something that happens in terms of a healthy transformation, that we leave with health and hope. And so I would certainly, we're talking about good, we're talking about being good stewards of our coping strategies, being mindful, meditating. I want to add to that movement, exercise. And the reason why I would say that is important, because there's some studies that show that just taking a walk every morning
Yes.
increases divergent thinking.
Wow.
So I want to break that down because that's a technical term. But divergent thinking is the ability to see other possibilities. It stimulates our creativity, other ways to handle our problems. So just taking a walk, studies are showing, increases divergent thinking. It stimulates our creativity. So think about how that can help us. I got stress, I got problems, and maybe what I'm facing seems hopeless. I take a walk, and while I'm walking, I implement maybe Sister McCrae's counsel here and start praying to God. And I'm walking, and as the adrenaline is moving, and as the endorphins are being released, my creativity, and I see other possibilities of ways I can handle it. There's ways I could do this. So literally, activity improves creativity.
Mm-hmm.
and,
Wow.
so now I see that I got more options, and it's not as hopeless as it looked. And if I'm praying, God begins to download strategy. That's the power of prayer. As I've been saying over and over, because sometimes we have a very drive-through concept of prayer where we just dump off and it's a one-way conversation. But prayer, when it's a full thing, when you do what the church mothers used to call when you pray through.
Right through. Yeah.
That means pray till you hear God respond and you know how he's responding. He responds in different ways. God in scripture responded as a wheel in the middle of a wheel and as a ladder for Jacob, and he responded as a still small voice, and he responded, the Bible says he answered Job out of the windstorm. And so he has all kinds of different ways of speaking, but we have to learn his language because he'll respond and increase our creativity so that we'll see that all is not lost. And so that's very important too. So we got to be mindful, we got meditate, we got move. So these are some healthy coping strategies in opposition to, if you will, or in contrast to overeating, oversleeping, and overspending. Dr. Shepherd, take us to we got our final couple of minutes.
Yes, sir. And Bishop, one of our faithful commentators, Cody Kelly, and we had previous shows with Cody. It's been a while, a couple of years ago, from Chicago, and he's been commenting. He reminded me and our viewers of King Eglon. And so he mentioned that. He said, "Don't be like King Eglon." And so just looking, and I'm sure Bishop would want to tag onto that. That was deep, because this was a king who got tricked and killed with his own sword. It was one of those persons, because he was so obese, and that the excess fat prevented his own retrieval. And so why is that so important? Is that we have to be careful that we don't allow the stress to mount up to the point to where we get tricked and killed with our own sword. Isn't that something? Now you might say, well, I'm not obese or things like that. Again, we're not coming for anybody, but it's just, that was just an interesting example that of how, when you allow yourself to remain so stressed, allow that stress level to build up to where you are now using unhealthy coping skills to allow yourself to now not be able to even defend yourself when the enemy comes to attack. And that is so key. And I'll turn over to Bishop, because that's why we're here talking about spirit and mind. We don't want us to be attacked unaware. We want to keep our mind sharp, because let me tell you, when you are stressed, that's when you become very vulnerable. And that's when things can creep up on you that you normally would not allow to creep up on you, just like with King Eglon. So thank you, Cody, for that example. Wonderful example. Bishop, I'm done.
So listen, hopefully you've been helped, and some person, and thank you to those who have put things in the chat line,
Mhm.
because again, it's a shared conversation. We all have ways that we learn to cope with the stresses of life, and of course, we started out by saying that there are other ways that you can get in contact with someone. The Bible says there's safety in a multitude of counsel, and so we certainly encourage counseling. We certainly encourage that you follow up, that you talk to someone when the stressors are getting a little overwhelming. Take it to prayer, and then let prayer lead you somewhere, because God
Yes.
often answers prayer by giving direction for our next step. Like you go to the potter's house, go see this woman, go see there, go to Peter, go to Cornelius's house. Your next move is
Mm.
revealed in prayer, because it's not just dumping off, but it's also receiving strategy. God is a God of strategy,
Wow.
and He has a strategy for your life. And so, and then He'll send you somebody to talk to you, ask Him to show you the right person, He'll give you the right pastor after His own heart, who will feed you with knowledge and with understanding, the right therapist, the right counselor. But whatever you do, keep the help and the hope, and know that you are not in this by yourself, because we're better together. Listen, so I know we're almost out of time. Dr. Shepard, final words?
Yes, sir. I just want to encourage everyone to continue to follow us. We want you to follow us on YouTube, we and Facebook and our Instagram page. We do have a Spirit and Mind Health, so look for us. Look us up, Spirit and Mind Health. Look us up on YouTube. I've noticed how people are looking and viewing our shows, going back to watch them over and over again. And so please go back, because you might not say, well, you might say, well, I didn't really need that today. But trust me, something will happen within this month and say, you know what, let me go back and listen to that show, or let me go back and view what they were talking about on how to manage your stress, because things happen so quickly today. It's amazing. So we want you to reach out to us, Nita Direct Care Services. Hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll do our best to service you.
Oh man, we got to go. But Dr. Shepard, that's so good, because some stuff is not for you, but it's to come to you so it can go through you.
Wow.
And that way you can let somebody else know that this is, you know what you're talking about. They're talking about on Spirit and Mind. You need to go and check out their website,
Yes.
because not every blessing is meant just to go to you, but God will always get a blessing to you if He knows He can get a blessing through you. And so, if it wasn't for your situation today, you may have a friend, because God is a God of intentionality. And you will tell them, listen, you need to join us next time on Spirit in Mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.